Ebere had known she was different from a young age. She noticed her attraction to other girls long before she even understood what it meant. But in her household, such feelings were unspeakable. Every morning began with prayers that seemed to stretch on forever, and every night ended with more prayers, as if faith was the only thing that held the family together. Her father was a pastor, her mother his devoted echo. The mere thought of confessing her feelings, even to herself, felt like a sin. So she buried them. The world around her was so rigidly straight, and she convinced herself she was too. But the facade didn't come easily. With Ebuka, her boyfriend of 5 years, things felt forced. Every kiss with him felt sloppy, as if she was playing a role in someone else's story. It wasn't the thrill everyone else described. It was like kissing an old friend. But she stayed, hiding behind the beliefs she was taught to hold dear. "Hey, Ebuka," she would say, her voice barely hiding the nerves whenever he came too close. "We should wait, you know, until we are married. It's the right thing to do." Ebuka would smile, frustrated but patient. "Ebere, it's been 5 years. Just once. Can't you let me in? Just to feel you close to me?" Her heart would race, and not with excitement. "You know my father," she'd respond, eyes averted. "He is a pastor." "Okay, what if I get pregnant? We will use protection," he'd say immediately. But she would shake her head, insisting. Ebuka sighed, but seemed satisfied enough with her words. "I understand. I just... It feels like there's a wall between us." She would nod, forcing a smile, and hope he couldn't see through her. Each time he asked, each time he sighed in disappointment, it became a little harder to pretend. After leaving his lodge one afternoon, Ebere couldn't shake the tension that coiled in her stomach. The relief she felt in escaping him should have felt like guilt, but instead, she felt something else: freedom. That night, she lay awake in her dark room. She waited until the house fell silent, then reached for her phone, scrolling until she found the lesbian videos she couldn't resist. A quick look at the door, a soft click as she pressed play, and the screen lit up with a world that felt real, intoxicating, unfiltered, something she wished she could reach out and touch. She felt alive, free, and undeniably herself. "I'll just get through this," she whispered to the silence, her voice trembling. "Once I marry Ebuka, I'll figure it out." But deep down, she knew marriage wouldn't fix anything. Ebere began her NYSC mandatory 1 year service in a school. As a graduate of political science, she was posted to teach government to secondary school students at a school down in Ekiti. She was excited, looking forward to escaping her parents' watchful eyes and getting a break from the relationship that had started to feel suffocating. Her parents had suggested they pull some strings to change her posting. But she vehemently refused, reminding them that since she got Ekiti, it was God's plan for her life. She knew that would work on them. There was a lodge for the core members posted to Divine Grace Academy. It was a dilapidated building, but Ebere quickly got used to its quirks. Waking up early to fetch water, bathing out back with the sky overhead, behind a low wall that barely provided privacy from the outside world. It felt raw and grounding. This simplicity was exactly what she needed. While she enjoyed her newfound freedom, she quickly realized she wasn't a natural teacher, nor did she enjoy it. The principal had placed her under Mr. Isaac, the government teacher, to guide her in preparing lecture notes. But Mr. Isaac offered little help, shrugging off her questions. "Shebi you said you're a graduate," he'd say with a smirk. "Oya na, right." Ebere tried her best, but every time she finished a lecture, Mr. Isaac would reteach the topic to the students, shaking his head and muttering under his breath about her inadequacy. One day, while Mr. Isaac was berating her in the staff room, Titi walked in to see her friend Busayo, who worked in the arts staff room. Titi, a physics teacher, usually kept to the science staff room, and one of the unwritten rules was that teachers didn't interfere in each other's affairs. But Titi knew Mr. Isaac was insufferably arrogant. Ebere was just stepping outside, feeling defeated, when she heard a voice call out, "Baby girl!" Ebere kept walking, not realizing the voice was meant for her. "Baby girl!" Titi called again, louder this time. Ebere turned, startled. "Are you calling me?" she asked, looking around to be sure. "Yes, you," Titi replied, smiling. Titi's eyes swept over Ebere, almost as if she were sizing her up or admiring her. "Come to my staff room," she said gently. "I'll show you how to prepare your notes. Don't mind him." Ebere was taken aback. She had noticed Titi around the school grounds, but had assumed she was the child of one of the staff members, not a teacher herself. Titi looked so young and beautiful. Ebere's mind wandered briefly, and she caught herself reining in her thoughts as she followed Titi down the hall. Inside the staff room, Titi handed her a long, hardcover notebook. "This is my outline," she said, her voice warm and reassuring. "Just follow it, and you will be fine. You can return it when you are done." As Titi handed her the book, her fingers grazed Ebere's hand. A light touch, almost accidental, but something in Ebere's heart melted. Titi had become very kind to Ebere. Even though Ebere had told her her real name, Titi still called her baby girl with such warmth that Ebere found herself looking forward to it. She started thinking about Titi more often, her mind wandering back to the sound of her voice, the way she smiled, and those daily text messages. If Titi didn't reply quickly, Ebere would find herself double texting, feeling that familiar flutter of anticipation. Each message began with, "Baby girl, hope you slept well," followed by an inspirational quote from one of Titi's church messages. Titi often invited her to church, but Ebere wasn't interested in all that. Still, she couldn't deny that those messages brought a little brightness to her mornings. After classes, Ebere often lingered in the science staff room, laughing and chatting with the others, but mostly hoping to be near Titi. It felt natural, and she liked the way Titi's presence made her feel seen in a way she hadn't felt before. One day, as Titi was packing up to leave, Ebere glanced at her and noticed her moving with a bit more urgency than usual. "Let me hurry up and go," Titi said, swinging her bag over her shoulder. "Why the rush today?" Ebere asked, curious. "Oh, I have a client waiting for a dress, and I haven't even bought the fabric yet," Titi replied. "You sew?" Ebere's eyes lit up at the discovery. Titi chuckled. "Yes, so, my dear, what will man not do? Man must survive." Ebere hesitated, watching her get ready to leave. She hadn't moved from her seat, feeling an unexpected tug to stay close. Titi must have noticed. "You're not heading back to the Copper's Lodge?" Actually," Ebere started, her voice trailing off. "I was wondering if you'd mind sewing something for me. I don't have enough traditional clothes for church anymore." She glanced down, her heart beating faster as she continued. "I was thinking I'd even come to the market with you. Maybe help pick out some material." Her words hung in the air, and she wondered if she'd given herself away too much. Why was she so eager to go with Titi? She had plenty of clothes already, but something inside her just wanted to stay by her side a little longer. Titi looked at her, her brows slightly raised, as if piecing together Ebere's intentions. "All right then, let's go to the market together." The two of them got into Titi's car, the engine pouring to life. As they drove, an unexpected silence settled between them, a tension that neither of them seemed able to break. Ebere stole a glance at Titi, feeling her heart quicken, but she didn't dare say anything, wondering if Titi felt it too. They went straight to the market, heading directly to the Ankara material stand. Ebere's eyes roamed over the fabrics, enchanted by the array of colors and patterns. "I honestly don't know which to pick. They are all beautiful," she muttered to herself, fingers grazing a few rolls of fabric. "Pick this one," Titi said, holding up a material with a mix of green and yellow. "It'll suit your complexion." Ebere smiled shyly at the compliment, warmth blooming inside her. Just then, Titi's gaze landed on a gown displayed a little further down the aisle. Oh, I really, really love that gown, she gasped, leaving Ebere behind to go straight to the store. Ebere strolled behind, her hand still gripping the Ankara material she'd chosen. How much is the dress? Titi asked eagerly, her excitement infectious. 20,000 naira, the vendor replied, bringing the dress down from the rack. Can I try it on? She asked, and the vendor nodded, gesturing her toward a small curtained area set up as a makeshift dressing room. Ebere settled onto a nearby chair, looking around awkwardly and clutching the bag containing her chosen material. Moments later, she heard Titi's voice calling, "Baby girl, please come and help me zip this up." Ebere got up, setting the bag on the chair, and slipped behind the curtain. She stopped short, her breath hitching at the sight of Titi with her back turned, the unzipped dress clinging to her shoulders. Her heart raced, her blood pulsing in her ears as she took in Titi's figure, the soft curve of her back. She swallowed hard, suddenly aware of the heat in her cheeks. "Zip it up now." Titi's voice broke through her thoughts, snapping her back to reality. She quickly drew the zipper up, her fingers tingling from the brief contact. Titi turned around, smoothing her hands over the dress, a smile lighting up her face. The dress hugged her curves perfectly, accentuating every line. "So, what do you think?" she asked, her gaze playful. Ebere just stared, unable to form words. Her palms were damp, her throat tight. She couldn't find the right words to express what she was feeling. On their way back, Titi reached into her bag and pulled out some groundnuts, popping a few into her mouth as she drove. "Care for some?" she offered, glancing over at Ebere. "No, thanks," Ebere replied, her mind still racing. All this time with Ebuka, she had never felt anything like this. This tingling anticipation, this sense of being truly alive. "So, I'll need to take your measurements," Titi said, breaking into her thoughts. "Will you follow me to my house now or come tomorrow? You might even have thought up a style by then." Ebere felt a rush of excitement and wanted to jump at the chance to go home with Titi right then and there to spend more time together. But it seemed only polite to wait until tomorrow. Just as she opened her mouth to answer, Titi spoke up again. "Actually, just come tomorrow," she said with a laugh. "I have a lot of work to do today, and dropping you at the lodge, it will be better tomorrow, and it's Saturday, so no rush." Ebere nodded. She didn't want to seem too eager. They arrived at the copper's lodge, and Ebere gathered her things to get out of the car. Titi turned to her. "So, see you tomorrow?" "Sure," Ebere replied, unable to keep the anticipation from her voice. It had been a while since Ebuka had called. They barely spoke these days, and when they did, there was almost nothing left to talk about. But it didn't bother Ebere. Her thoughts were somewhere else. With Titi. She wondered if Titi liked women too. If she'd noticed her feelings. If she should even try to make a first move. When she arrived at Titi's place, the hum of a sewing machine filled the air. Ebere knocked 3 times before Titi opened the door, dressed in just a singlet and shorts. She'd gotten used to seeing Titi in office wear, always buttoned up and neat. So the sight of her like this made Ebere's heart beat faster. I was just finishing up the dress before the customer comes to pick it up, Titi said with a warm smile. But now that you are here, let me go take a bath. I'm sure I smell weird. Ebere shook her head slightly, trying to keep her expression neutral. Titi didn't smell weird at all. She smelled amazing. It was a mix of her natural body heat and a faint hint of body mist that clung to her skin, the kind of scent that lingered in the air and made Ebere's thoughts drift. She felt a warmth spreading inside her and scolded herself silently, knowing she was getting carried away. After Titi came out of the bathroom, wearing fresh clothes, she smiled, easing into their usual light-hearted banter. Sitting up all night sewing will have you hunched before you are even old, Titi said, laughing and grabbing her measuring tape, gesturing for Ebere to stand. As Titi stepped closer, the scent of her freshly washed skin and body mist filled Ebere's senses, her legs turning to jelly. When Titi reached around to measure her bust, Ebere struggled to steady herself. She could feel Titi's hands close, brushing against her, and a soft sigh nearly slipped from her lips. Are you all right? Titi asked, noticing the flush on Ebere's face, a hint of concern in her eyes. Yes, Ebere managed to say, her voice barely a whisper, willing her heart to stop racing. Titi winced slightly, rolling her shoulders. Ah, my neck and back are really killing me from all the sewing. She sighed, reaching for a small jar of rub and handing it to Ebere. Ebere, could you please help me out a bit? Ebere's heart raced as she took the jar, staring at Titi.